let yourself be trash a little bit, you know? I've been trash for many years, all right? Like that's part of the way it goes. But you know, even when I was trash, at least I was like trying something, or there might have been there could be an element of something where it's like, oh, this could be good one day. And I still have a long ways to go. Like even though I spent a fucking shit ton of time working on this project, I still feel like, okay, like I've improved a lot, but I don't think that this is the ceiling.
Now, interview with the boy Quadeca, a very good one I might add. Quadeca is actually someone I've been hip to for a couple years now. A lot of people might recognize him from his YouTube videos that he's been able to market himself through as a rapper. He has a huge audience over there. But I've been a fan of the man for some time now, and we've kept in touch throughout this time, had a lot of great conversations behind the scenes, and you're going to be hearing all about those conversations in this interview. If you enjoyed this interview, make sure to not only let me know by liking the video, but also drop a comment so I know that I should try to do some more interviews with other artists. With that being said, the Quadeca interview. I'll catch you at the end. The boy Quadeca, man. What's up with you, my brother?
Oh, how's it going?
It's going good, man. I'm feeling great.
Hell yeah. BlackySpeakz on the line. This is a very historic day right here.
Absolutely, bro. Dude, first of all, I just want to salute you on just like everything you've been doing, bro. Like you have been doing some great things throughout the years, and you know, I've been a fan. Like I've been a fan for a while, and we spoke. When did we like start talking? 2018 maybe?
Yeah, a while ago. I feel like we had one little long call, and you know, dove into many fascinating subjects.
I remember that. I think that was actually like, it might have been like at the end of 2017 maybe, like beginning of 2018, something like that.
Yeah, it was a while back.
But ever since then, bro, like you've been killing it, man. Like seriously, like you've been doing some great things, and it's dope to see you shining. Album, we're going to talk about the album in just a second. That's dropping very soon from me to you. But
yes, sir. Thank you, bro.
Yeah, let's actually start there, man. Like, how are you feeling about this release, bro? It's been a long time coming.
I'm feeling good about it. I'm just fucking excited to get everything out there, you know? Because it's like you said, it's been a long time coming. And yeah, it's one of those things where like I just like put too much OCD tedious effort into it, where it's like I'm just very ready for the people to be able to hear it, you know?
That's good. Like the fact that you just care about the details so much, right? And I think that says a lot. Like it says that you really care about what you do.
Yeah. Sometimes I think I care a little too much sometimes. Not to sound like an asshole, like, oh, I'm so great, look at me, but like in the kind of way where it will sometimes limit like my willingness to want to release things. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I see.
Like, when I was making the album, I kind of I got super excited to release things, and then the longer I waited to release it, like the more I want to work on it, and then the more I'd want to work on it, the more the expectation for it rose, and then the more anxious I became about working on it.
But yeah, bro, can you talk a little bit about like the process of the album, man? Because you've been super locked in. Like maybe touch on a little bit, kind of like stepping away, because you really stepped away from everything. Like you weren't on social media for how long? For like 7 months, right?
Yeah.
So what was the process like recording, you know, the album when you decided to step away from everything? Like did it give you like a clear, I guess, headspace?
Yeah, I think it did. You know, I because I've like grown up on social media and shit, like I'm not gonna be like holier than thou, and it wasn't like a kind of thing where it's like, oh, social media sucks and everybody that's on social media is toxic, and I'm so much better than everybody because I went off of social media and I'm connected to the spiritual planes of trees and shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it was just like it was just taking up a lot of my time, and I'm the kind of thing where I didn't want to bombard people with shit that I didn't care about, you know? Because I was kind of reflecting on how I've used the internet and sort of my brand as like an artist and a personality or whatever. And, you know, I was just like, nothing that I could put out. Like, I don't really care about anything that I'm putting out except for this album that I'm working on, you know? So why would I want to draw attention to myself when it's something that it's not something that I'm like the most proud of, you know? I sort of changed the way that I prioritize like feeding the content machine, you know? Cause like since I was 10 or 11 years old, I've been fucking on that grind, you know, like uploading 3 or 4 videos when I would do like FIFA soccer, football related videos. And I would just hammer them out, cause I was very obsessed with like the game of YouTube and that sort of thing, you know? And so it's definitely weird, like doing something for basically as long as you are a conscious human being. You know what I'm saying? Like the years before ages 9 and 8, those are like the bullshit years. 9, 10, 11, then you start being able to formulate thoughts. Ever since the time where I've been able to formulate thoughts, I've basically been releasing content, which is kind of weird to say. So it was sort of me stepping back and like having time to just like breathe a little bit, and not breathe as in like take a break, but I just work on something that was sort of more special to me and not necessarily about feeding the content machine, you know?
So pretty much what I'm hearing that, you know, you decided to fully focus on this album because you've kind of been, I mean, we're all, you know, products of the internet. Like I'm a YouTuber, so I know all about like the whole content, just like machine, constantly being on the grind. And I think a lot of times, like, especially when it comes to as an artist, man, like a lot of times you have to take a step back and assess what you're doing. And you have to, if you're going to be fully locked in, I mean, just look at the greatest artists of this generation, man, like the J. Cole's, the Kendricks, the Eminems. Like, these guys are not on social media. They're in the studio, locked in with their circle of friends, engineers, producers, and they immerse themselves in that world because that's when greatness happens. I don't think greatness happens from always, you know, as an artist, right? As a rapper. I don't think it happens when you're always in front of people's faces. You have to take a step back, and it feels like that's what you did.
Yeah, that's a very good way of articulating it. Like, when you're constantly thinking about like what am I going to do today that's going to reach people or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, sort of taking a little bit of that pressure off and just putting it into something that you care about long term. I feel like that was pretty valuable. Yeah, because you know, it's like I was thinking about like the way, especially during the quarantine pandemic era, like how disposable a lot of the music that's being put out is. Not that the music itself is disposable or bad, but how it gets treated as disposable. Like,
because there's so much of it, right? That's why.
Yeah, there's so much of it. I feel like it's you know, this could be like a BlackySpeakz video title, but some shit like the Friday, the 9 p.m. Friday, or like the Friday midnight effect or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Where like a big artist releases something, they go trending on Twitter for like an hour, and then 3 days later people just kind of forget about the album and they just move on. And that is, you know, it could be some shit that somebody spent fucking like a year or 2 years on, and people are like, okay, what's next, you know? And I don't think that's necessarily like, I'm not blaming, there's no blame to be on anyone. Like, the consumers, there's just so much access to everything, and there's so much music being put out. It's just it's a very tough time to have something that can stand out. So yeah, I guess like a simple way of putting it is like my aim shifted from being about like what banger thing can I drop this week to like what's something that I could do that somebody could still be checking back for in a year. You know what I'm saying?
Pretty much like what you said was, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but like being focused on bangers are cool, and I like bangers, right? We all like bangers, but what I'm saying is sometimes, especially like if you're an artist who wants to like really, you're headed for greatness, like that's what you want, you have to think about longevity pretty much. And that's what you're doing with this album, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, who knows? It's hard, and I'm not trying to be a pretentious asshole who's like, I'm in it. I'm see the future. I'm a long-term guy, and everybody else, they're just all about what they're gonna do tomorrow or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because who knows what people are gonna think of it, or what is gonna be, or what is gonna age well or not. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to make something sort of with just separating myself from this, you know, algorithmic kind of perspective, and just was like, all right, let me just make something that I think is kind of cool, or that can kind of just hopefully can kind of stand on its own, regardless of the context in which it's released. Because I've been working on it for such a long time, like since fall of 2019 or earlier than that, you know, some of the, if I was making something to work then, who knows if it would have lasted by the time that the album drops, you know?
I think, you know, when it comes to releasing content as an artist, whatever, as a creator, it's about putting out stuff that matters to you. And, you know, we had this conversation, by the way, you know, we spoke, was it like a month ago, right? And you were kind of giving me advice on, like, I was kind of like struggling with I guess like my purpose of what I was doing, right? Yeah. So do you remember that conversation we had?
Yes, sir.
So I was, you know, kind of struggling with like, oh, why am I doing this? And I realized that I just wasn't really putting out content that I really cared about. And now, you know, these last few videos I've dropped, I'm putting out content that I really care about. And it's now like my mind is shifting right now. I'm actually really proud of what I'm putting out. And I think that's really the only thing that matters, bro. It's the thing that matters is that you care about what you do, which clearly you do. And I can hear the passion in your voice.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like that when you care about the shit that you're doing, or like you develop a really deep connection to what you put out. And it's like, you know, those views or whatever the numbers are, they count more. You know what I'm saying?
They
like,
really do.
They like one view on something that you really care about is worth worth 20, let's say. I don't know. It's not a real equation, but that's how it feels.
It's because, yeah, exactly. It's because you care about it, and it's because there's so much emotional energy you put into it. And that's all that matters, man. At the end of the day, that's really all that matters. Can we talk a little bit about, I don't know, like, what's your mental state like these days? Maybe after connected to your album, like, don't spoil it because, you know, it's going to drop tomorrow. When I drop this interview, it's going to drop tomorrow. But, like, what's your mental state like after immersing yourself in this album?
And it's, you know, the past year or whatever, it's been like a pretty, universally, it's kind of been a very depressing time for a lot of people.
1000%.
You know, just sitting at your computer all day, like doing, I mean, I was probably sitting at my computer all day anyways, but there was sort of a level of like, you know, feeling stuck or like not knowing what the fuck is going on. Like I kind of have like my perspective on what I'm doing will change so quickly, that it's like, that's why it's hard for me to answer this question, because like I'll go from being so fucking ready, like, yeah, this is like the dopest shit ever, to then being like, oh, I'm so nervous, or what people just think it's horrible, or who cares what anybody thinks, it's great, or it, you know, it doesn't even matter. Music and what I'm putting out, I'm only doing it for me, and nobody else matters. Like, literally, I'm like a fucking walking, as Tyler, the Creator, says, he's a walking paradox or whatever. Like, I will literally just, my perspective on myself or what I'm doing is very subject to change. But currently, I'm excited because, I just think it's this album is like a big step up for me. And
that's exactly what I was going to ask, by the way. Do you feel like this is like a transition period of your career as an artist?
Yeah, definitely. I think I think, well, yeah, that's one thing about like my sort of career, I guess, is it's like been very, you can track every step of it, if that makes sense. So you can see the albums I was making when I was 14, and you can see the one I made with that when I was 15, and you see the one I made when I was 16, and then you start getting into, you know, voice memos, and then the singles. Like, everything is a trackable kind of thing, and I feel like the gap from my previous stuff to this album, because I took this hiatus where I sort of just allowed myself to process the time that I guess would usually be a public developmental kind of thing. I think that there's sort of a bigger leap to the album, if that makes sense.
I get that. It's like you're kind of like coming back with just like a harder bang, because there's been like a little gap between, you know, like whenever you started taking that little hiatus till now. There's a big noticeable gap that you didn't do anything, you didn't say anything, you didn't drop anything, you didn't do anything. You were just locked in. And then now you're coming back with this new energy. You're excited about this project. You've put in so much into it. You're happy about it. You're passionate. You're excited. And I think people are going to hear that, you know, on the project. And, you know, you're probably going to go on like maybe like a little media run, I guess, do other interviews. I think people are going to feel and sense that.
I would never cheat on you. I'm never going to do another interview. This is the only interview I'm ever going to do.
Exclusive. Okay.
Yeah,
I like that.
exclusive.
By the way, bro, I know you're like a big fan of just like this new generation of hip hop. And I want to ask you, like, what is your favorite thing about hip hop in 2021?
Bro, it's sick. It's so good. It's really good. People are not given enough credit to our current generation. It's like a really cool like generation, and there's so much diversity in terms of what kind of music people are making, the age of people. There's so many young kids who are dropping fucking fire shit. Some of the old people are dropping fire shit. Everybody in between. It's a really interesting time right now, just in music in general. And it's sort of like so many genres and stuff are becoming, you know, so layered and kind of weird. And it's a really dope time. And anybody who's saying, who's complaining about the current generation and is saying, oh, I liked it better when blank was blank, you're out of the loop, because there's so many great artists right now.
Thank you. You know, people, this is something about, I feel like, you know, at least for as long as I've been listening to hip hop, people have always, like, whenever we're in the current now, people say that was better. You know, so like the current generation is always going to be better, because people don't truly appreciate, you know, what's going on right now. And I always say this, but if you're complaining about hip hop, not, you know, hip hop being boring or not being exciting enough, you need to stop listening to the same 5 rappers that you listen to. Like, you need to expand your vision. Like, does that make any sense? I feel like we probably agree on that.
If you want to find any kind of music right now, you could find it. And people are breaking barriers and doing really cool experimental shit, in terms of vocal delivery and production. And there's so many great women in hip hop too. Like, bro, this shit is fire. People are just stuck in their sort of nostalgia or elitist ideas of what they think hip hop or music should be. Not that I'm an authority on hip hop by any means, but like, I don't know. I've always appreciated people doing weird shit, and I've always been a fan of this sort of new age hip hop that just is super out there, you know?
I like that you're standing up for, you know, this new generation, man, because I've always, you know, like, this is not even relevant only to hip hop, but I feel like this generation of kids, man, they get a lot of just like negativity thrown their way. Like, kids are actually like really smart these days. Like, they're on social media hustling, trying to, you know, they're not really stuck in this kind of like, you know, I don't know, like our parents, right? Like our parents, like we all can relate to that. Like they don't have like the social media, I guess, like, you know what I mean? Like this new time, like we're all grinding for not necessarily to be stuck in one place, like one job, one town, do this, do that. We're all like free thinkers. And I think that really, that kind of like energy is really showing itself in hip hop. Because hip
Absolutely.
hop is a reflection of the world.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because it's like the sort of idea of a regional sound is still there. Like there are still regional sounds, and like, all the cool shit with like UK drill coming into New York, and then, like you have all these sort of, but then there's also people who it doesn't even matter where the fuck they're from. They're just making weird shit, or like they grew up on the internet listening and being influenced by every kind, like, punk music and metal and dubstep and whatever kind of shit, like it's just a really interesting and kind of unprecedented time. And I don't think people are given enough credit to it. And I don't think people are excited enough, like why can't people just be a little more excited? I'm excited. We have so many young rappers and just artists in general that are doing some really crazy shit.
And it's
and
all
I'm
on
excited.
social media. Like you can see this, like you, like you said earlier, like you have a track record, right? You have a track record because you chose to document your journey on the internet. And now when people see you, drop this album, they're going to go back. A lot of people are going to find you through this album, and they're going to be like, who's this guy? Who's this Quadeca guy? So now they're going to go, your old videos. They're going to find out that you used to do FIFA videos. They're going to find out how you, just like how your evolution, the evolution of Quadeca. And personally, I just think it's, I think it's one of those things where, again, it just comes down to the fact that this generation of rappers, hip hop, even just like I said earlier, like kids, they're getting a lot of shit for no reason. And you're a voice for those kids, by the way.
Hopefully.
You really are, man. Like, truly.
Yeah.
Let me actually ask you that, man. Like, what would, like, a message to the kids, man, like, of this generation who, they want to pursue maybe rapping. Let's say rapping. They want to start rapping, right? And they don't know how to start. Like, what kind of mindset did you have as a young man starting off and making music and rapping? How do you not only get started, but how do you get through the mud?
That's a great question. I've definitely always been kind of a musical kid. Like, when I was like 7 or 8 and stuff, like I'd play songs on the piano, and I've always loved listening like I to a lot of different shit. Like that's always been a main thing that I've done. But I feel like now there's so many resources for people to be able to really make anything that they want. Going back to like advice, I guess for me, like I was kind of blessed that I started doing all this shit before I had enough self-doubt to not do it. Like that's the thing that comes with age, is you just start doubting yourself more, or you become, or another way of saying it is you become self-aware enough to know that you're trash, and then you don't do it. Because once you're like, when you're like 10 or 11, it's very rare that you're going to be, or even like in high school or middle school or anything, like whenever you start, you're going to be trash. It's a pretty, except if you're like on some other shit. If you start and you're really fire, then I give you credit. But for most people, it takes a long time to find your voice and to figure out what you like and all that shit. So I think just allowing yourself time to play around and not sort of try to appease anybody's expectations of you, or like just keep your interests broad. Listen to a lot of different shit, because I feel like in the past year or two, that's something that I think is one of the most valuable things that I did, was I just expanded the kind of music and the kind of shit that I was actually like consuming, because that's just going to give you a little hint of inspiration everywhere. Not that you have to copy something, but any kind of thing, like listen to things and consciously try to process, oh, I like this, but why did I like it? Oh, I liked it because there's this really cool vocal effect and that adds this to the song. And then, oh, maybe when I do this song, if I try that vocal effect here, that might make something new. Or then like just try to make as much different shit as you can and listen to as much different shit as you can. And I think that's what's gonna, and just by exposing yourself to that much shit, you're gonna have you, because you're your own person with your own taste, and you're gonna come out of that with something unique.
My interpretation of what you said was pretty much just, number one, be open to learn, right?
Yeah.
Don't be so close-minded, and listen to a lot of stuff, and actually listen to music with, with an artist's lens. Like, it is entertainment, yes, but if you're trying to do this, you have to listen to the music and think, what do I hear in the music that's great that I could possibly implement into my own music? Because like they say, like, nothing under the sun is original. And
yeah.
There's a quote, something like, good artists invent, or, great artists steal, something like that. And, you got to be self-aware. You can't just like be stealing stuff. That's not what we're saying. We're saying learn from other people who are better than you, be open to learn, and focus on the process, and accept that once you start, you're not going to be great, but once you pass that learning curve and you actually become comfortable with making the music you like making, you're good at, people are responding positively to, it's only going to go up from there.
100%. Yeah. Let yourself be trash a little bit. I've been trash for many years. All right. Like that's part of the way it goes. But even when I was trash, at least I was like trying something, or there might have been there could be an element of something where it's like, oh, this could be good one day. And I still have a long ways to go. Like, even though I spent a fucking shit ton of time working on this project, I still feel like, okay, like I've improved a lot, but I don't think that this is the ceiling, if that makes sense.
Of course. I mean, life is, we're always growing, fine-tuning our skills, and just always getting better. And the most important thing, just like you,
exactly,
during the process, when you were going through, this phase of being a young man, transitioning into an artist and taking your craft seriously, you were always learning and getting better. And it can be heard in the music. So I think the most important thing is just be open to learn, and make sure you focus on improving and just getting better, right? By the way, can we go back to, you talked about kind of like you said something along the lines of, I was young enough that like doubt didn't like really kick in, right?
Yeah.
Can we go back to that? Can we talk a little bit about maybe why, I don't know, like why a lot of kids have a lot of doubt nowadays, man? Like, I think a lot of people listen too much to, people imagine if you would have listened to the people, because were there people who told you like, you're not going to make it? As
cliche as that sounds, I don't really feel like anybody directly went up to me and was like, hey kid, you're never going to make it. I mean, on my YouTube comments, 100%, but that's YouTube comments. That's a whole different, you could probably find any arrangement of letters in my YouTube comments and it would be there somewhere. But it's just like, I was a kid in middle school. Like, I'm sure people behind my back or whatever, some were like, oh, look, that guy's so corny and thinks he's going to be a rapper. Like 100%. And that's probably, and I'm not an idiot. Like, that's probably what I would have been saying about myself too, so it's just, and I think it's bullshit. The idea of like, oh, this guy was destined for greatness or whatever. Like, I could have quit and that's whatever. I would have quit and I would have been like, oh, that was a little phase that this white suburban kid had in his middle school and whatever. Now he's going to go be a fucking broker for some bullshit,
Yeah.
But I guess I was I got too into it. It was too fun for me. And I really do love music so much where I just kept working and kept doing it. But going back to that point of like not having enough self-doubt to not go for it. I low-key think part of this quarantine period has had really interesting effects with young artists because, when you're in school and shit, there's kind of that fear if people sort of know that you're an artist and you drop something, they're not going to be very open-minded. Like, kids are fucking brutal, bro. Like,
For
high
sure.
school, middle school kids, if you do anything that's sort of putting yourself out there and it's sort of, and it's kind of vulnerable in any way, like, that's a risky thing to do, you know? Like, so that can make it hard for a lot of people to start doing shit at a young age. But I think during quarantine, when people were doing online school, there was a little bit less of that kind of pressure of like, oh, I'm going to drop something, then I'm going to go to school the next day and people are going to make fun of me or whatever. It was like everyone's depressed as fuck. Everyone's just in their beds online. Like, this is a great opportunity for me to go fuck around with music or drop something without that kind of fear of that immediate social pressure, you know? And I think that's really cool, you know? Not that we should just stay having online school, because that sucks. But I wonder if in the future there's going to be some kind of study or something about that, because I definitely have noticed a big amount of new artists that are like surprisingly young, sort of throughout this past year.
Yeah, I've never thought about that, bro. Like, a lot of young artists actually, like, being open to experiment, because the social, the social consequences of, being, like we said earlier, like, you got to be okay with being trash, but like being trash is like, that social thing is like gone. So people are not going to feel it. A lot of artists actually are not going to feel it, right? So they're open to experiment because they're kind of like locked in their little man cave, which you've been. By the way, man, your album is going to drop tomorrow. And I wanted to ask you this question. What is so special about, I guess, like, this album? Why did it take so long to make it?
I think what took this album so long is it's definitely my most ambitious shit. It was just very ambitious in general. And it was very hard to produce a lot of these songs because I sort of realized that my goal for the album was very paradoxical. Like, for a lot of the production style, I wanted the songs to be both super beautiful and clean and grand, but also distorted and like fucked up and raw and digital, and everything that I wanted it to be was kind of contradicted by something else that I wanted it to be, which made it hard to find the right balance for it, and it just made some of the songs very tedious to produce and get right, you know? But I think that's also what makes it unique and what makes it cool, and it kind of fits in the theme, because the theme of this the theme of this album is very like mountain oriented, you know, and I listened to a lot of like mountaineers talking about mountain climbing and shit like that, and the way that they described mountain climbing was very paradoxical too. You know, they're like, oh, it's so beautiful, you get connected to nature, and you sort of you come out of it learning a lot about yourself, and it's like a crazy beautiful experience. But then at the same time, there's this huge fear of like, oh, I'm gonna slip off this cliff and die, or it's 30 degrees below freezing and my feet are falling off. Like, there's that sort of beauty. There's the beauty of it contrasted by this fear and like immediate stress, and because I wanted the album to be transportative and to sort of feel like being, like screaming off the edge of a fucking snowy mountain, that sound of it fit the vibe, if that makes sense. That was a super probably pretentious answer.
No,
but
I see. Let me see if my interpretation of, with the album, by the way, I haven't listened to the album, so, this is my guess, right? But this is you pretty much, you're at the top of the mountain, you're saying, I am free. And this is me given, because the title of the album is From Me to You. So is this like you telling all your listeners, like, this is like me, from the top of the mountain, I'm screaming, this is me, accept me as I am, take this body of work.
That's one way to do it. I wouldn't say it's like at the top of the mountain though. That's the kind of, you know what I'm saying? It's more like it's more about using this sort of metaphor. I mean, I'm not the first person to use a mountain metaphor, but it's sort of about that metaphor of the climb, and a lot of references to stuff like that I figured like lined up well with stuff that was going on in my life, if that makes sense, you know? But yeah, the from me to you part, I guess, comes from the, like, when you, let's say you get to the top of the mountain and you're looking down at the place that you're going to end up returning to, you know, like you sort of gain a new level of insight, and you have to work on yourself, and it's an album that's very introspective, and it's a lot about like that mountain as those sort of internal kind of shit that you have to work through in order to be able to, you know, love somebody else or something. You know what I'm saying? So it's about the sort of internal journey, and then from me to you, you know, because there's lots of songs that are about relationships and love, but also self-love. So it's kind of like, I wrote this down somewhere, and it's better than how I just explained it. But
some sort of like a, I don't know, like a therapy session.
Yeah, and sort of using the mountain climb as like sort of working through it, you know. But yeah, like there's and it's, you know, not every song is just solely about mountain climbing or anything like that, but there's lots of little references to it, like the interlude titles, and I became super interested in like these interviews with mountaineers, and like I watched all these documentaries, and I ended up, there's so many great quotes from these people, and I found some that really resonated with me sort of out of that original context, and I took them and put them in the album in ways where it's sort of thematically connected tracks. Like, for example, there's this interview clip from this famous mountaineer named Chris Bonington, I think. He's like a English dude, and there's an interview where he talks about how he's like addicted to climbing, and if he doesn't climb for a little bit of time, he gets withdrawal symptoms, and it's like a big thing for him. And then that transitions into a song about being addicted to work, and sort of using that as like the climb metaphor, you know. That's the one with Play That Boy Zay, the work song. I'm hyped for that one. Yeah, I did
shout out to Zay.
The beat of that one. I sampled the fucking printer and like copy machine sounds, and it has a cool sort of like distorted thing to it. I don't know. I like that one.
So yeah, there we go. Shout out to my guy Quadeca for this great conversation. His album From Me to You is dropping tomorrow actually, and I suggest you check it out. But yeah, what did you think about this interview? Definitely let me know in the comment section below, and let's have a discussion about this.